Hello YouTube, it is Musty Hobbit here, and I am back with part 2 of the Why I May Return Mass Effect Andromeda video series. Now, if you watched the previous video, you know that I sunk a couple hours into the game. I really tried to look at it from my own perspective as opposed to reading into a lot of the hype and the things that were being said about the game from the media and from the people who got early access. Who were kind of blasting the game for whatever reason. Some of them being more specific about the animations and things like that. So I was trying to come up with, see if I could make an assessment based on just those first couple hours of the game. Unfortunately, after 2 hours in, I had gotten to a planet called Eos, and I had stopped right at that point, and I didn't feel like I could make a good assessment there. So I actually extended the rental that I had on that game for another couple nights in hopes that maybe sinking a little bit more time into this game might get me there. I think deep down I was looking for some reason to justify maybe a slow beginning to this game. One of the things that I'm realizing at the start of this is that this game is trying to start up a number of new systems. There's systems running all over the place. There's crafting and there's world building and you know, I feel like they may have made a misstep here in not just pulling forward some of the existing systems that were in the original trilogy to at least provide some sort of coherence between the two. Yes, we are in the same world. There are the same general ideas, biotics, tech, the same type of classes are there, but even the class system is effectively gone. You kind of state at the beginning that you are interested in doing this one type of thing, but as I understand, as you sink further into the game, that really just goes away. So I think one of the major issues that we're running into here is that I feel like BioWare's overextended themselves a little bit. Not only was this a lowly staffed game, but I think they were trying to implement too much at once. I feel like they were going with systems upon systems upon systems. Even at the point where I stopped playing, I feel like they were still introducing me to new mechanics, and that can be kind of jarring. Even though this is supposed to be a very long game, in what I was trying to evaluate there, I can't ignore what actually happened. And one of the biggest issues that I was running into, surprisingly, happened with two of the things that people are praising about this game. And it was probably the biggest turnoff for me altogether. So I had an issue with the combat, specifically the AI on our squad mates. In the original trilogy, you had a lot of control and a lot of ability to take, to have, even down to what powers are being used by your teammates. You lose all that. None of that is here. At least none of it that I came across at any point is present, which is really kind of unfortunate. To the extent of all you can do is point at a spot and tell your companion, go there, hide and cover there, and then you can direct them to fire upon an enemy, which is supposed to cause them to do more damage. But as you can see here, I'm telling them to fire on this enemy, and for whatever reason, they are standing off in the distance, they aren't doing anything, and then I end up falling off the edge of the platform. Now, strangely enough, I would think that this would allow me to fall all the way to the ground floor below me, but no, it doesn't do that. It surprisingly spawns me right back next to this enemy with no health at all, and now I'm dead. Overall, this is not pleasing to me. This is very frustrating in general. So now, after all of this, I've respawned, and I decide I'm kind of tired of this engagement attempt to take over this monolith or something like that. And so I just push on, and I attempt to take this thing by going straight in with my Nomad, right? The driving. A lot of people have said that the driving is good. I had some fun with the driving. I will say that. I felt like it did a nice job climbing steeper hills and things like that. And you kind of switch between low gear, high gear, which was kind of nice. But this strange thing happened where I drive straight at this base, and I miss the ramp just a touch, fall off to the side, and I end up lodged underneath it. And not only am I underneath it now, but I can move the camera around a little bit, I cannot get out of the Nomad, and I can see up through the bottom of the surface that is lodging me in place. On top of this, and a new enemy is spawned. One of these little reptile-looking things has come up and has now started eating my Nomad, taking down not only the shields, but now the health of the vehicle. And then at this point, I'm actually able to hop out of the vehicle. Great, awesome. Okay, now what? Now I am locked in engagement with one of the enemies, who almost takes me out. And then, if you take a look here, I've now cleared away that reptile thing, turn around, and I don't know what's happening here. So, with all of this in mind, at this point, I basically was done. Saddens me at the moment, but I think for right now, this game is just not in a good spot for me at the moment. And it's more the frustration with some of the things that were going on with the game. I don't feel like these were things that I was doing wrong, but I feel like the game is broken in some aspects, and I think that they need to listen to what people are saying, and I think they need to fix it, just to whatever extent they can. I understand if they're at this point where it would take months and months of basically overhauling the entire game, then I guess we're stuck, and maybe that means that Andromeda 2 or whatever the other galaxy that we would travel to doesn't happen. And I guess that is a potential reality. But I have some concerns about Bioware, and I was trying to think about what might be happening here. This Frostbite Engine is the first Mass Effect game that's used the Frostbite Engine, but it's not the first game that EA has used with this engine, which is why I'm surprised that we're having issues with facial animations here. But if you look at Dragon Age Inquisition, granted I did not play that game, but I have done a little bit of investigation into this. If you look at Dragon Age Inquisition, I didn't really see, the similar mechanic, right? Lots of dialogue, lots of close face-to-face. You see a lot of the faces. Very humanoid faces, and they seem to do just fine. In Mass Effect Andromeda, the alien faces seem fine. It seems to be this human face that's the problem. And I don't know if it has to do with the level of customization. It could be that they are offering too many options to give you a custom rider for this game. And maybe that's what it is. They need to be able to cater to whatever you might throw at it. And I think that might be causing problems. Now, I don't recall people complaining about the number of customization options that they had for Shepard in the original game. So I don't know why they felt the need to go to this extent, to the point where we're talking about facial scarring and tattoos and things like that. That it feels like a lot of extra effort that I don't know is paying off in the long run. In fact, there's some really strange combinations, and not just hair color differences and things like that you can put together, although I really didn't experiment with that. But if you also look at games like Battlefront and Battlefield, they also use the Frostbite Engine, and they do, and maybe it's the fact that this is DICE that's doing these games, but DICE seems to be doing just fine with animation on faces. Now, you're not getting into dialogue with Luke Skywalker or the other Star Wars characters, but for some reason, this game is having problems, but they could make almost photorealistic representations of characters from movies from 20 plus years ago, and I don't see why we can't get that in engine for Mass Effect Andromeda. I am also interested to see if there was something about the timeline of this game. I feel like this game had a very reasonable length of time to be made. They were talking about it well in advance. They said I think it was 4 years ago. It was a year out from the Mass Effect 3. They said, we're going to do another one. We don't have anything to show you right now. We're going to take our time. We'll show you stuff when we have stuff. That was 4 years ago. And just now, I feel like now they may have needed another 6 months. But I don't know if they're afraid of putting Mass Effect up against some of their other, like, I feel like EA kind of either was pushing too hard, maybe, or BioWare just had committed to it too early, and ended up, I don't have a great answer for all of that, but I think that had they spent the time, even if they had pushed it back 3 months, give them a little more time to fix some of this stuff had to have come up in testing, had to have come up in focus groups, or I heard the concept of pre-reviews recently, where they have people look at a game that's still in beta, and they basically write a review, and then they may use that to help tweak and fine-tune things toward the end of production. And so I wonder if that had some kind of impact here, because the other comment toward here, and then I think I'll wrap things up, is the marketing. They really didn't market this game until the absolute last minute, and I get the feeling that some of that may have been because the game wasn't ready, and they knew it, and so they weren't ready to put stuff out there. So they ended up finding they really keyed on a couple of things, right? They keyed on character customization, they keyed on the combat, they tried to introduce you to a lot of these systems, and what ended up happening is you didn't get into talking about conversation trees. You didn't get to talk. You didn't get to see a lot of the talking, right? The stuff that was concerning, and that's why when that early access happened through EA Access, all of a sudden now you see it, you hear it, you hear people talking about it, you hear people questioning, like, I don't think this is right, and that I think is what's going on. So, anyways, needless to say, if you haven't interpreted this already, I am returning my copy of Mass Effect Andromeda. Thankfully, again, to my local rental store. I had the ability to try this game out before cracking open my own copy. And yes, I am disappointed. I'm hoping that they figure it out. I'm hoping that they fix it, because I really would like to enjoy this game at some point. But there was just too much in the. Like, honestly, I played probably about 4 or 5 hours, and it was too much frustrating me, especially in that stretch after the initial 2 hours, right? That was frustrating to the point where it makes for a poor gameplay experience, and I really don't want to suffer that, especially not with a series that means as much as Mass Effect does to me. So, I'm hoping EA, BioWare, I doubt any of you are listening to me, but I hope that you hear what people are saying. I hope that you're serious about trying to patch some of this stuff out that is patchable. And if it's not, then maybe tell us. Just acknowledge that without a true overhaul of the game, that these things unfortunately aren't going to get any better than they are. Maybe that dose of honesty might be a good thing, and it might quiet some of the vocal minority when it comes to that. And unfortunately, I'm part of that vocal minority right now. But there's plenty of other stuff that's going on right now, and as we continue on into the year, then you're going to start running into, I'm sure we have a lot coming for E3. Now, one thing I did want to point out, one of the things that I would like to do with the funds that I was putting aside for Mass Effect is to put that into a reserve for my next new console. And I'm not sure what that's going to be yet, but I want to be able to have some flexibility, whether that is a PS4 Pro, whether that is a Scorpio, whether that is a Switch. I want to be able to make a move on one of these at some point. Of course, I need to hear what Scorpio is before we can do anything. But a PS4 Pro will go awfully nice with my new TV. And I'm only hearing wonderful things about the Switch, and so far I've been put in, I think, 3 or 4 opportunities where having a Switch would have been fantastic. Unfortunately, did not pick one up early on because I really want to make sure that I've got enough games, and I don't know that snipper clips is going to be that killer app for me just yet. Although it does look really, really awesome. So I'm going to wrap there. Please tell me what you think of these videos. I really wanted to do something kind of dissecting hype. Unfortunately, the narrative doesn't go that direction because I'm not hanging on to this game. But if this is the type of thought that you want to hear out of me when I'm not talking about pickups, which, as I said, pickups still coming. But again, if you have any thoughts, feedback on this, please let me know. Please like the video if you did, and if you are not already a subscriber and would like to hear more from me, please subscribe. But for now, thank you for coming by. I have been Musty. Take care of yourself. Be good to each other.